Once upon a time, beauty didn't come from effort. It came from pain, from crushed bones and poisoned skin, from traditions soaked in blood, bound by expectation, and carried by silence. They called it elegance, but it was agony in disguise. This is not just a story about beauty. This is a journey through the most torturous beauty practices in human history. The smaller your waist, the higher your value. That was the unspoken law in 19th century Europe. The perfect waist in the 1800s wasn't a suggestion, it was a requirement. Fashionable waist, 18 inches. Some pushed for 14, and so women cinched themselves into corsets, tightening, until they could barely breathe. Doctors warned them, husbands encouraged them. Society demanded it. The hourglass shape was the obsession, but the cost was brutal. Ribs cracked and curved unnaturally inward. Organs were pushed down into the pelvis, lungs compressed until women gasped for air with every step. It didn't just faint, it bled. Fainting wasn't rare, it was expected. Entire rooms were designed for women to collapse gracefully, and still the laces were pulled tighter. They called it feminine, graceful, but it was physical punishment for the crime of not being perfect. Even pregnant women wore maternity corsets, risking miscarriages to stay desirable. Behind every graceful curtsy at a royal ball was a scream no one ever heard. For some women, corsets weren't tight enough. They became tight lacers, training their bodies to live permanently disfigured. Some had ribs surgically removed. Others couldn't eat solid food as their stomachs had no space. One woman was buried with a 13-inch waist. This wasn't about fashion anymore. This was slow mutilation, internal bleeding, miscarriages. Some even had ribs surgically removed to achieve permanent hourglass bodies. Her organs found scattered inside her body, relocated by the torture she wore daily. These weren't women chasing trends. They were victims of a beauty war they were told they had to win or disappear. They wore pain like pride. Because beauty wasn't natural, it was conquered. Pale skin meant purity, status, power. So women painted their faces with Venetian ceruse, a mixture of white lead and vinegar. It made them glow, porcelain, untouchable. And women would stop at nothing to achieve it. But behind that glow was rot. Lead seeped into their skin. They painted their faces with lead-based powders that slowly rotted the skin. Arsenic wafers were sold as beauty aids. One a day would lighten the skin. They swallowed arsenic wafers to bleach their complexions from the inside. They dropped belladonna into their eyes to dilate their pupils, giving them a wide eyes to look more seductive. All three of these were toxic. But inside, organs slowly failed. Hair thinned. Vomiting was common. Lead caused baldness and tooth loss. Arsenic shut down vital organs. Belladonna led to permanent blindness. They called it belladonna, meaning beautiful woman, but it was deadly nightshade, dressed as desire. Queen Elizabeth I herself was believed to suffer from lead poisoning. She wore layers upon layers until her face was more paint than skin. By the end, she refused mirrors because the real face beneath the mask had disappeared. That's what beauty was, a slow death, hidden behind powder and pearl. In ancient China, beauty began at the feet. Little girls, barely old enough to form memories, were forced into a ritual so cruel, it echoed for centuries. Their feet were soaked in animal blood and herbs. The arches were broken. The toes, except the big one, were folded under the sole, then tightly wrapped in silk, again and again, day after day, until the foot was only 3 inches long. A golden lotus, that's what they called it. But it was a lifelong deformity, one that caused gangrene, infection, and constant pain. And yet, girls would cry not from the pain itself, but from fear of having ugly feet. Because if they didn't bind, they wouldn't marry. And if they didn't marry, they were nothing. And the cruelest part, the mothers who did it were once victims too. Beauty passed down like a curse. Behind every brushstroke was a wound, Behind every smile, a scream no one heard. These women weren't weak. They were warriors in disguise. History remembers the dresses, the faces, the styles, but not the broken bones behind the bodices, not the tears behind the painted eyes. They endured pain so they could be accepted, admired, loved. Today we look back and think, how cruel the past was. Today, in the filters, the surgeries, the expectations, we must ask, are we free from beauty's grip, or have we only changed the tools of torture? Must share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, subscribe to my channel for upcoming interesting videos.